Suzanne Shires. I'm the Herbal Granny Mentor. My website is Simple Homestead Living. I do this for a living. It's a lot of fun. I do, oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's a bunch of dirt. Okay. I do this for a living. I teach, I write books, I have some books with me. Some of you are familiar, I recognize a few familiar faces. I write books, I teach, I do classes, I lead foraging walks, and I tell people about wild food, mostly wild herbs, wild medicine, wild food. There's just so much that is out there that we have completely gotten away from. Take mustard, for example, mustard greens. They have developed into so many, a brassica has developed into so many different things. Broccoli, cabbage, even a head of cabbage is not in its original form. So there is so much food that has been developed and gotten away from the natural form that is usually much more healthy, much more robust, much more beneficial to our bodies. So that's one of the reasons why I try to eat something wild every single day. And if nothing else, I make wild seasonings so that I can get extra nutrition in my food. So I've been doing this a while, and there is always something new to learn. So if you know something about a plant, please feel free to say it, just holler it out. You know, if you know a plant, I'm gonna show you a bunch of plants today. And if you don't recognize them, that's perfectly fine, because I'm going to tell you how to find it, where it's located, and how to get it in a foraging area near you. Now that can be a park, that can be a neighbor's yard, that can be some waste property. As long as you get permission, don't do as I do, do as I say is what my daddy used to say. Have I been foraging where I'm not supposed to? I'm going to plead the fifth. I'm telling you not to do that. I'm telling you not to do that. They are cracking down a lot of places. We used to have a lot of wild spaces, but now with Hendersonville developing like it is, and the surrounding areas, and even up in the mountains, they are cracking down a lot on foragers, simply because people have been so gung-ho to do it. They're trying to find the most unusual, or they're trying to gather the most. Ramps are one thing, ginseng is another. Mushrooms not so bad, because it's like picking apples. When you pick mushrooms, you're not taking the mycelium, you're not killing it. When you pick an apple off of a tree, you're not going to kill that tree. As a matter of fact, that's what it's there for. It encourages, it'll drop. That's the ovum that's the fruit, the reproductive parts. Those seeds will reproduce into another apple after they have been scarified, which, if anybody knows what that is, that means the squirrel ate it, pooped it, and dissolved the coating on the seed a little bit so that it's going to sprout a little bit better. So if you've ever had to scarify or stratify seeds, with a piece of sandpaper and scrub those seeds, that's what you're doing. You're copying, you're mimicking that digestive system of an animal that should have eaten that plant and dispersed the seed. So there's a lot of plants that need that to reproduce. So if your pack tells you to do that, be sure to do it. If it tells you to cold stratify it, that means the seed normally drops in the fall, has to go all winter, and then it'll bloom. It'll sprout in the spring. So we've lost a lot of that ability, but luckily this area is really forward thinking in propagation and regenerative farming. All these practices are kind of coming back to us. We're kind of a little hub in this area. Asheville, all of that. I think Asheville at one time had over 200 small farms. I don't know what it is now. And Hendersonville is the same way. We've got a ton of small farms that people grow 200 pounds of garlic in their backyard, or microgreens, or lettuces, or nuts. If you go down to the low country, lower North Carolina areas where it's hot, where it's really hot, South Carolina too, excuse me, you'll see a lot of pecan farms. And I say pecan, I don't know what y'all say, pecan. I say pecan because I'm from here. That's the right way to say it, pecan. But you'll see a lot of pecan farms, and that's a thriving business. I love pecans. Pecan is actually a hickory nut. Hickory nuts in themselves are the hardest to shell, and there's a reason for that. They have the sweetest meat. So hickory nuts are wonderful, and I didn't see a shagbark hickory today. Is anybody familiar with shagbark? You've heard me talk about shagbark. This wonderful lady has sat through several of my classes, I think. Shagbark hickory, who's ever tapped a maple tree? Anybody? All right, a couple people have tapped maple trees. The sap is not the only way to make syrup from a tree. You can take the bark of certain trees and get this wonderfully rich, flavorful, dark essence. I mean, it's just wonderful. Take that bark, and it'll peel off of a shagbark hickory. Now, there's a shaggy oak. A southern oak is shaggy as well, and you'll know those just because of the growth of the tree. A hickory reminds me of a tree that you would find in a haunted house because the branches. I'm very animated, so I'm going to tell you I'm going to show you what they look like. A hickory to me just looks like it's sad, especially a shagbark because the bark is just coming off of it and it's real shaggy. I probably have some pictures of one. But now a shaggy oak or a shaggy maple, a shaggy oak grows like a broccoli to me. If you pull off one little broccoli stem, it's going to look like this. So, and then live oaks will be very majestic. The branches are very broad, whereas a maple kind of buds out all over it. So, and that's different. Maples would be red right now. So if you see, there's some in Jackson Park. We just came from Jackson Park, and there's some beautiful maples with very large Samoas, and that's the little helicopters on a maple tree. You can pull those apart, and that bean is very edible. But you do not want to eat the Samoa, the wing part, because it's very astringent. If you know astringency, that's where it makes your mouth pucker. So when you get something that's astringent, it's going to make your mouth pucker, it's going to dry your mouth, but actually astringent is very good for us. Bitter is very good for us. So that leads me to tell you a little bit about a couple of docks that I found. Docks are very bitter. Who has, don't raise your hand, who knows knows someone or has yourself a liver issue? I know several people. The liver is your master organ. So when you have these liver issues, usually something like a fatty liver disease is most common. Gallstones, which connects with your liver. The gallbladder makes a bile, helps produce the bile for your liver to digest food. When you don't get that, you're going to have problems with digestion. You're not going to absorb your minerals as well as what, say, they did 500 or 200 years ago, because they ate a lot of bitters, which this is one. And the doctors, medical establishments will not tell you when you lose your gallbladder, either from stones, obstruction, or eventually surgery. Those stones are happening because you're not getting enough bitters in your diet. The surgery, once you have that surgery, you're going to need more bitters, and the doctors don't tell you that. Oh, you don't need your gallbladder, you're fine without it. Well, your gallbladder does serve a function. We don't have any auxiliary organs in our body. Even our pinkies and earlobes have a purpose. But when you don't have that gallbladder, one way to help your liver digest better and for you to have less heartburn, less GERD, less of these issues, is to eat more bitters. This is one of the best that you'll find. This is a dock, D-O-C-K. They're in the Rumex, R-U-M-E-X. This one is, I forgot the name of it, but anyway, it's red vein dock. This one, on the other hand, is Rumex crispus. I just pulled this up and it's already drying out a little bit. But It's also called yellow dock. So you see this long, skinny, and the curly on the edges, that's called curly dock, yellow dock. I'm going to pass a couple of these around so y'all can see them, feel them. Here's the red vein dock. I think that's another one, yeah. And that's the red vein. Both of these are in the Rumex family. Rumex being docks and a few other plants. You're welcome. I have not washed those, but if you wanted to pull a little piece off of it and just to taste it, dirt won't hurt. You know, God made dirt, dirt won't hurt. These came, it looked like it was pretty clean because it rained, it just rained. So I will pull a lot of stuff, especially after a rain, and use it unless it's going to get a lot of sandy dirt on it. You know, usually you won't have a problem with things like that when if it's after a rain. So another one that is very good for digestion, as well as vitamin C's. Anybody recognize this? Sumac. It is sumac. Now you're welcome. I'll take one first just to show you. This grows way up high. These are just about gone for the winter, but I did happen to find those. You can just barely taste the sour. You know, vitamin C, citric acid, ascorbic acid has that tartness. This is one of the best malic and gallic acid plants around, and you'll just barely have a little bit of an aftertaste on the bitterness. But when you get them in August, July and August, they are tart, very tart. You want to get them before a rain because the outside, you can just lay right there in that chair. The outside coating of that berry is what we want. That's where we're going to get the ascorbic acid, malic and gallic acid. Malic and gallic acid is actually better for you than ascorbic acid. So this is one of the best sources of that, as well as your vitamin C and B vitamins too. So there's a lot of controversy that there's more B vitamin than there is C, but it just depends on which side of the theory you stand on.
And it helps with digestion, you said?
It does help with digestion because it's going to help settle your stomach. That tartness, instead of constricting your stomach, it's going to help kind of relax that. And it's really actually a very good way, something you can add to bitters to make it just a little bit more palatable. Mm-hmm. I have something called Appalachian bitters. I'm sure you may have heard of Swedish bitters. That you take the drops and it starts the salivation process, which is the beginning of digestion. Digestion actually starts in our mouth or on the chopping block where we're breaking up food. So to get that started in your mouth, something sour, something bitter, something acrid, you know, that all those tastes that get your juices flowing, and that tart citric acid is going to help do that. So, but that's also very good for immune support because of the malic and gallic acid in it. It makes a wonderful tea. The dock, by the way, I didn't tell you that, how to fix that. I would mix those in, especially if you're not used to it. I would mix them in with some greens like turnip greens because they can be very bitter. You can make a tonic from the roots of those dock, and really, that's really going to help affect the liver and get it into shape, get it in better condition than a lot of us. Our liver is our master organ. So when your liver is overloaded, a lot of people are big on detox right now. Got to do a detox. Got to do a liver detox. Got to do a liver detox. That's great. I think liver detoxes are great. But if you are eating a regular diet of bitters and you let that get used, you know, if you get used to that, you're going to have less need for the detox. Even for things like fluoride and heavy metals and things like that, your liver's going to be functioning better when you eat bitters, even if it's the drops of bitters that you put under your tongue before a meal. And talking about them, I'm sitting here salivating because I know how bitter they can be. And I love bitter. I love like a lemon rind. I'll nibble on a lemon rind on occasion. lemon rind is a great way to add bitters to your diet. If you want to nibble it like that, some people can't stand that, but the pith especially is bitter. If you can't do the pith, just do the rind. Just a little piece of the rind. Wash your lemon before you squeeze it, and then just peel off a little piece of the rind, the yellow part, and put it in your mouth and let it sit for a minute. And that's going to help start that digestion. You'll feel it. You will feel your stomach, the juices in your stomach starting to work. You'll feel if you have a gallbladder issue now, stones, things like that, it's going to help move that bile around those stones, and sometimes there are things that you can do to help dissolve small stones without medication. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a pharmacist, I'm not going to tell you to get off any type of medication, but if you want to assist in a lot of functions that medication is supposed to be doing, you can do some of that with natural herbs. So, another bitter, does anybody know what this one is? The old timers love this. This is a crazy green. Watercress, land cress, bitter cress. It's called, but the old timers call it crazy green, C-R-E-A-S-Y, I believe it is. I love them. I love crazy greens. Get a big old mess. You can find them sometimes at the farmer's market. There's a guy that will just grow a field full of crazy greens, but a lot of people will call it watercress too. So, and you notice it's another bitter. So the old people, like back in the Depression days, even before that, you might exist all winter on some very poor food. If you were a poor sharecropper, you may have had a sack of flour or a sack of cornmeal and a little piece of fat bag to last you all winter. And then when the spring flush came, that was when the greens started coming up, the dandelions. Man, you were grabbing as many of those as you could find, whether it was crazy greens, mustard greens, the cresses, dandelions, hawksbill. I think I have a hawksbill here. There it is. That looks like a dandelion leaf, right? That's a hawksbill. Dandelion leaves actually point backwards, don't de lion, like tooth of the lion, because lion's teeth go backwards. Shark's teeth go backwards in their mouth. And that's the way a dandelion is, but see how this one is almost flat instead of pointed down. This is hawksbill. It's a dandelion look-alike. Very bitter. It's compared to, say, iceberg lettuce. So when I talk about the bitter, compare it to something you know now, how arugula is a little bit more bitter than, say, iceberg lettuce. It's a little more bitter, so it's closer. It's closer to a rocket, which is a native green, or the docks. So any of those wild greens that are edible, make sure you find one that's edible. That's something I should have started talking about, is edible, palatable, and toxic. Toxic doesn't mean you're going to just drop dead. So a lot of people with sumac, for example, there's 200 varieties of sumac, and everybody assumes they're poison. There's only one poison sumac, and it has white berries, not the red berries, and it grows in a swampy area. So you really don't have an issue with confusing a sumac. Now this is more of a staghorn. It's actually called smooth sumac, and that means it grows in the stag. But true staghorn sumac has a really furry berry. And I was going to tell you how to make that into a seasoning. Does anybody like Mediterranean food? I do too. Have you ever had za'atar? Mm-hmm. That's za'atar right there. That's what you make za'atar from. Yeah, so let me tell you real quick.
I live in the Middle East.
I love za'atar, right? You'll see this growing all over the place here. And once you find it, you'll never not see it. Okay, so when you see this and those stags pop up on these shoots, the sticks will be tall. As a matter of fact, this was probably 12 feet tall. I had to bend it way over to clip those two, and that's the only two I could reach in this big patch that was about as big as this area. So when you find these and you grab those stags, lay them out, let them dry for a little bit, And then you can take a fork, or you can take it in your hands. I'll pull them apart like this, these little pieces like this, and just simmer those to make a sumac-ade. It's a real tart red lemonade, citrusy aid. But if you want to make za'atar, you can just pull all these berries off, take a fork and pull them off like you would elderberry, or you can just take and rub them in your hands like this, and the berries will just fall off. Your hands will get covered, and you can lick your fingers. You know, I do, man. I'm just like, I love that stuff. But you'll take those berries and kind of just lay them out, let them dry a little bit, maybe a week or so, and then take them in a coffee grinder. You want a low-powered grinder. Now, I had a student who didn't hear that point, that I said the low-powered grinder, so she ground them up in her Vitamix. She said, oh, that is awful stuff. That is just so gritty. And I said, did you put it in a coffee grinder? No, I put it in my Vitamix. She ground up the inside seed, which is very hard. It's very hard, like a pit, like a rock. The inside of those berries is very hard. What you want is that outer coating. And I told her that. I said, you should use a low-powered grinder. And she remembered that I said that, but she wasn't paying attention to it. So let me tell you, if you don't want it gritty, do a low-powered grinder. You do not want it to grind up that seed. So I just pulse it, pulse, and then take it out and put it in a sifter, a mesh strainer, and just sift it out over a plate, and all that powder will fall out. And that's what you use for your za'atar. And most za'atar recipes, every Mediterranean family has their own recipe for za'atar. But the three ingredients are usually oregano, sesame, and sumac of some sort. Remember, I said there was 200 varieties. In Pakistan, wherever, they have a completely different variety, but it still has red berries and a very tart flavor. So that's how you make za'atar. And I'll make a southern za'atar, and I'll put sassafras with it. I didn't see a sassafras tree. I was going to bring some leaves for you to smell them. They smell so good. But if you want to make a root beer, you'll need sassafras. And also, to make root beer, you will need, where's it at? Here. Does anybody remember this? If you're a little southern girl running through the garden and you run up on one of these, y'all recognize that sawbriar? Well, you can tell why it's called sawbriar. It's very, very evident why it's called sawbriar. This is also sarsaparilla. So the root, carefully hold that. I didn't tell you I was going to bring some dangerous implements, did I? But you'll want that root. Now those roots are hard to dig. And that's the smilax plant. The roots can sometimes be 5 or 10 pounds if you get an old plant. And there's 40-ish varieties. So some of them will have leaves like, as big as your face. Some of them will have very tiny leaves like that. So some of them have thorns that look like they're about 1 inch long. So just depending, and I have seen some with a stem down at the ground that was almost that thick. It was scary with big old thorns on it like that. So when you go to dig that root, that's going to be a big root. The root off of this plant would probably be about the size of a big carrot, because that's a younger plant and is one of the smaller varieties. What does that say, big carrot?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like a big carrot. And those are easier to work with. But when you're making a root beer, I have 13 botanicals in my root beer recipe, and it would be like clove and shagbark hickory and a little bit of sumac and sassafras and the smilax. Several other things too, juniper berry, things like that. Juniper berry, by the way, very good for your kidneys, but you don't want to take too much. Everybody knows what juniper is. It's the cedar tree that's actually in the red cedar family, but it has the blue berries on it, little dry blueberries that are actually cones. They're not actually berries, they're really cones, the little blue cones. So you find those in the winter, and it takes 2 years, but now some trees will be ripe this year, and then another tree will be ripe next year. So, you'll find some every year, but you won't find them on the same tree every year. So ripe. So juniper berries, very good. Simmer some water and put a couple tablespoons of juniper berries in a jar. Pour some simmering water over it. It's even better if you put it with Queen Anne's lace flowers for kidney and for gout. Both of those are very good for gout. But you don't want to take too much juniper, but you can take as much Queen Anne's lace as you want to. So I would interlace the juniper maybe 3 days a week if you're trying to clear out kidneys or clear out an infection or get your kidneys to function better. You can't find a better herb than Queen Anne's lace, and that would just. Does everybody know what Queen Anne's lace is? The white flower. Okay, that's in the carrot family, Dicas carota. So, and when you want those, it's actually the seed that you're looking for on the Queen Anne's lace. That's completely out of season. That comes in the summer, but I got off on juniper, which you would harvest now. But you want the flowers when they just, they'll be like this, curved over, and when they start turning up just a little, not the bird nest like this where they're completely spent, but as they start cupping up, so you'll just go down in a field and just start popping them up, just pop them off as they're turned up like this, spread them out, let them dry. It's better if you actually put them in a Ziploc bag and freeze them because you want them as fresh as possible. You can use them when they're dry, but you're going to have a more potent formula if you use them when they're fresh. So if you freeze them, they'll still be fresh. If you need it in the wintertime, So take about 15-20 of those leaves, those flowers, to about a quart of water. Just pour the simmering water over them, and then you drink that freely, half a cup at a time, 3 or 4 times a day when you're trying to get rid of a bladder issue or a kidney issue, or make your kidneys perform better. Okay, let's see. What else have we got here? As far as food goes, we've talked a little bit about docks. We've talked about cresses. Who recognizes this? Earlier, Robert said onion grass. This is not grass. It's an onion. It's in the allium family. So I'll pass this out. How do you know you've got an onion? How do you know you've got the right one? Because this does have a look-alike. Smells like an onion. Smells like an onion. So I didn't have my little trowel. Robert's truck's not equipped. Told him, I said, we're going to have to outfit your truck. So he didn't have a trowel, so I couldn't get the bulbs to come up. But the bulbs are very small, very pungent, flavorful. They're delicious. But if you find something like that that doesn't have that onion flavor or that onion smell, it's toxic. It's a toxic plant. I think it's lily of the valley. Who knows what a ramp is? Ramps are coming up, not that you'd roll a motorcycle up on the truck. I'm talking about wild ramps. Oh, if you have wild ramps, please see me after this class. I could get probably the back of my truck full of ramp greens, and still I would be looking for more. So I'm one of those people that I eat ramp seasoning all year long, not just as a garlic, but I'll just pull the leaves, which is actually better instead of pulling up the whole bulb. Now sometimes if you're pulling on the leaf, you're going to get, because they grow in such loamy soil, very light and fluffy soil, if you're not careful you'll pull the whole ramp up as you go, instead of just breaking off or cutting off the leaves and leaving the bulb to grow for the next year. It takes 7 years for a bulb to actually make a leaf. So they're being decimated. Right now you can do, I believe I just heard you can pick a gallon, and I'm like, come on now.
Right.
I do go to private property. I trade out with the gentleman. I bring in big armloads of herbs for he and his wife, and they have a grown son who is actually living on the property now. I think he's got like 30 acres or whatever. And so whatever they need, I get them immune support, I get them flu medicine, I get them all this stuff. And bring it to them in exchange for pillowcases full of ramp tops. So I have transplanted and replanted, and I have a new farm, so I'm brand new. Everything is being starting over again for me. I had all of these plants, 200, I believe, herbs. Not most of the things that I brought here today, but I had about 200 medicinal herbs and food. And I got some of them, and I'm hoping they will last, or they'll survive the winter in pots and things, because I'm just now getting them. So, all right, let's see. Who knows what this is? Leaves of 3.
Let it be.
Let it be.
Mhm.
Is that true? Well, obviously not, because I'm handling it. It's a strawberry. This is a wild strawberry. It sure is. One of the best vitamin C sources. Everybody knows what strawberry is, right? Well, I'll pass it around anyway. And here's where the little strawberry will come out. You know, this one happens to have where I pulled it up.
With white flowers.
This is the one with white flowers. Now, is the one with the yellow flower a strawberry? Can you eat those berries? You can. They are bland, they have no flavor, but they won't hurt you. And that's a kind of a little bit of a misnomer. One of the old wives' tales that the snake berries, we called them snake berries, and they're real bumpy, you know, they have no flavor whatsoever. And that's an old wives' tale, that something with no flavor or bitter is poisonous. They didn't say toxic, I say toxic, because people get the idea that poisonous means, you know, you're going to drop dead if it goes in your mouth. And there's many a child has had their stomach pumped after eating pokeberries, 2 pokeberries, because their mama didn't know what they ate or how many, and so they're going to teach that child a lesson. I have cousins. They had to go to the hospital because we ate my grandma's pokeberries. But it was okay if grandma took those pokeberries, and we called her mama. If my mama took those pokeberries and made jelly, she would put them with Concord grapes and make a grape jelly to make the grape jelly go farther. She didn't realize that she was doing a very potent, powerful lymphatic for all of us, which poke is an extreme lymphatic. And what you'll see now is the poke shoots coming up. Those are edible. A lot of people will say, oh, you have to boil it 3 times. My grandmother would boil it once, but she would only get leaves that were smaller than her hand. She wouldn't get the big giant leaves. Now those you need to boil those multiple times. And the reason, that's a Phytolacca americana, is a poke plant. Phytolactotoxin is the chemical that causes digestive distress. The boiling actually neutralizes that, so that's why you pour out the water, and a lot of people will boil them a second time. But if you get those very small leaves, that's smaller than your hand, boil them 1 time, get rid of the toxin, and then they're ready to prepare. And the way you know that is just taste one. If it still tastes bitter, you'll have to boil it again, and you'll bring your water up to boil, and you put your leaves in there. And if you're gathering small leaves, you'll be fine with 1 boiling. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, if the stem is red, you can't eat it. Yeah, you can. There's going to be small leaves coming out all year up until a certain point. You know, I have seen them come out even after frost. If the frost didn't hit where that plant was to kill it back, it's still going to be sending out new leaves. It's very tenacious. It's tenacious poke. But you can actually still eat those leaves even when the stem turns red, even when the berries are coming out. What's the problem with that? The plant will be more bitter, but so will collards when it sends up a stem and bolts, so will turnip greens when it sends up a stem and bolts. Every other green, even cabbage or broccoli, when it bolts, those leaves are going to be more bitter. We just don't eat it after that. But they don't think about that as a logic response to poke. Oh no, it's toxic after that. Well, it's just going to be more bitter. Then you may have to boil it twice. Or I've never boiled any 3 times, but I've never harvested the big leaves either. I just harvest the small leaves. So, and I like to combine it with turnip greens just because that's my favorite. I don't mind eating poke by itself. I like it, I love it, but I prefer it with a little bit sturdier green, which would be the turnips or collards, or even better. Not turnips at all, collards. Collards is what I like to combine poke with, just because it's a texture thing for me. If I boiled it 3 times, it would be too mushy for me because I like it green, nice and firm. And I'll take and I'll put the strawberry. I'll put dock in with it, 2 or 3 kinds of dock. Also, does anybody recognize this one? I'll give you a little hint. Violet. What about violets? Has anybody ever tasted a violet leaf? It's a little bit mucilaginous. It's got, you can even feel it. I just broke the leaf on that one so y'all don't see it. So you can feel it. I'll send a couple around. You can feel it when you kind of crush it between your fingers, that there's a little bit of sliminess, not sliminess, but slicky feel. We called it, Mama, that's slicky, you know. But you'll feel that slickiness in it, and that is very good for acid reflux, for GERD, for multiple issues, gut issues. It's also good for sore throat. So if you're chewing on that leaf and you're just swallowing those juices, it's going to coat your throat. But what's even better?
That one is the violet leaf?
What's even better is to get the violet greens, not necessarily the flowers, but the violet greens and flowers. You can do both. Put it in honey, chop this up, grind it up, put it in honey, and let it sit. And then you can either strain it out or just keep the leaf in it, because I like the leaf. It doesn't hurt it in that. But just chew on that kind of and let it just kind of coat your throat. Honey is very good for sore throats and cough because of that. It sticks around a little bit. It's going to coat. That's why it's good for a burn, because it'll cover a burn and it'll stay there. It won't slide off like an alcohol or water. It won't evaporate. It's going to stay there on your throat. This, just chewing these leaves and swallowing that juice into your stomach, is going to help those digestive upset and the GERD. When you have acid reflux, it actually damages that esophagus. You know, it starts breaking down because it's acid. This is one of the things that will really help that. And then number 2, first I would help relieve that, but number 2 is you need to find out why that's happening. You have an upset, you have an imbalance. Usually it's because you don't eat enough bitters. So back to the bitters. How bitters is really, this is what 2 different things that we've talked about that bitters are going to actually help, mostly with digestion. But once you start getting bitters, because our diet is so sweet, our diets nowadays is just super, super sweet compared to 100 years ago. But once you start getting those bitters in your diet, your skin is going to look better. I'm actually 83. So I eat bitters every day. But your skin's going to look better. Do what? What'd you say?
I was going to say, where do I get it?
I'm just kidding. But your skin's going to look better. Acne will clear because your liver is processing all of these toxins, things in your diet that are, and if you have a fatty liver, check, see how much high fructose you're eating every day. Super, super sweet. It's a chemical. If you're eating a lot of that every single day, and I'm talking lots of it because it's in everything, your diet is going to be affecting every organ in your body. So that's one of the things that you can do. If you're having certain issues, see if you can connect it back to your liver. Pain in your joints, connect it back to your liver. All of these other things that you can do. Okay, so let's move along here. Here's one. Oh, this one smells really good. I'm going to let everybody smell this. You can take a leaf and crush it. Now this is the wild mugwort. Mugwort is very good for your lungs. You can do a face wash with it that will actually help clear up skin. It'll clear up boils. It's good for colds and flu. You can put it in your formulas for colds and flus. It's very aromatic, and you'll notice that there's a lot of aromatics that are really good for your lungs. So, but that is the wild mugwort. I have one that grows. It's called Artemisia absinthium, and that's what they made absinthe with. You know, who's the guy with the ear thing? Not Rembrandt. what's his name?
Yeah.
Bango, yeah, cut his ear off. He was high on absinthe. And actually he was withdrawing from it. I've heard that story. He was withdrawing from the absinthe, and it just kind of caused an issue, other than his ear.
Did you say that mugwort's good for?
You can use mugwort for lung, put it in a formula for colds and flu, for lung conditions. If you're drinking it as a tea, it's bitter, it's going to help digestion, so that's going to help your skin. There's so many things.
You can also eat it as a green. You can also eat it as a
You
green.
can if you can tolerate it. It's not toxic, but it's very bitter, and it's got an aftertaste that I don't particularly care for, but I will put it in formulas. I'll do it as an alcoholic tincture. So, all right, there's a couple of others aromatics here, and I want you to notice on this one, feel the stem. Oh, love this one. I just kind of dumped everything out here. If you need to crush a leaf, there's 3 or 4. Feel the stem. This is hoary mountain mint. Grows everywhere here. Hoary, H-O-A-R-Y. Hoary is an Old English word that means white. So you will see this, and it'll look like it's been dusted with powder. Does anybody know what Dusty Miller is? Dusty Miller, dusty, it's a hoary plant, H-O-A-R-Y. I'm trying to think of another one off the top of my head, and I'm drawing a blank. But a hoary plant, that's an Old English word for that, H-O-A-R-Y. So, and I say that repeated. I usually repeat that multiple times so that people don't get it confused with another spelling. But mountain mint is, if you'll notice the feel of the stem. Did you notice anything about it? Did anybody get to feel the stem? Tell me.
Square.
It was square. What does that mean? It's in the mint family. That's a Lamiaceae. Now, all mints are Lamiaceae, but not all Lamiaceae are mints. Oregano is in the Lamiaceae family. Sage, lemon balm, catnip, all of those are in the Lamiaceae family, and you can tell every single one of them by 5. And this is how botany works. So I know everybody's got a plant out, but if you can look for certain characteristics on a plant. On a mint, it happens to be triangle leaves. It happens to be, let's see, triangle leaves, purple flowers, a fragrance, and a square stem. And it's unnerving. So this is going to calm a cough if you put it in with a formula. So let's look at a couple more real quick before we're done. Does anybody recognize that? That is milkweed. Isn't that beautiful?
What?
I love these. That's milkweed. This will be full of white fluff. About September, October, just be full of white fluff, and you start pulling one and it'll just float away, and the next one will pop up like a Kleenex. So you just start pulling them out, and the wind will catch them out of these. And there's a yellow bug, not a yellow, but an orange bug that will eat anything out of the center and eat that fluff. And just as a little trivia, they would pay people to pull these in World War II, pull this fluff, and it would, that's what they would put in flak jackets and down vests. When there wasn't enough down, they would use that fluff. Milkweed, that's the only thing that a monarch butterfly will eat, the larva. Who knows what this is? Forsythia, yellow bells. Yellow bells, great antiviral for the lungs. So you can take and pull your yellow bells while they're still fresh like this. Get some of the tips. I would get tips like that. And you can put those in an alcohol, preferably PGA, 100 proof will work. And fill the jar full, and then you can use that with sweet gum. And I can give you more information on how to do that. I tell that to everybody. I want everybody to have that. That can be your first herb to work with, is sweet gum balls and forsythia. Who knows what this is? That is the skeleton of sundrops, evening primrose. Evening primrose, wonderful for women. Men can take it too. But you want to get the seeds that you see here everywhere on my table, And in the early fall, when these burst open, you can just turn them upside down into a pillowcase and gather gallons, because where you find one, you'll find a bunch. Down at the Quarry Mountain Mint, this is the top of where I found that mint. So when you see these little fluffy little buttons, that's where you're going to find the wood mint. All right, let's see. Who knows what this is? This is the bane of my business.
Yeah.
Privet.
Yeah.
If I catch anybody, oh, it's awful. Do not
Gross.
plant this. And it kills me that they're selling this at nurseries. Yeah, they're selling this at nurseries. So, anybody know what this is? This is an elderberry. I'm going to pass this one around. You will find elderberry everywhere here. And you'll see how it's got the little dots on it? That's how you recognize it. It'll grow near water. And it won't grow in a ditch or in a creek, but it'll grow on the creek banks. It likes its feet wet, but not muddy. So a little something I made up. Here is one for you to get right now. Vitamin C, everybody's looking for vitamin C. The needles themselves on a pine, longleaf pine is the best. If you don't have longleaf pine, this is a shorter pine, perfectly fine. Get those, get this many longleaf if you find, so it would take double of these, but when you pull them off and they're long strands like that, get you that many, put them in a jar, pour simmering water over it, cover the jar, and that is one of the best vitamin C's that you can get. But this is, we're about to come into pine pollen season. Very good androgen for testosterone. Someone in their 20s, you don't need to take it. Maybe in your 30s, depending on the person. But after 40, especially into the 50s, this is wonderful for men. Women need it too.
Can I ask,
Yes.
does it matter what pine?
Except for a yew, which is not a real pine. And there's a constituent in ponderosa pine, which they don't normally grow here. But yews are not true conifers. You don't want to pick from a yew. And I don't even know what a yew looks like. I'm going to have to look that up. Or a ponderosa, which ponderosa pines will have huge catechins.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. But you don't want to use the needles on those. I
It's
believe you
just-
can use the pollen.
It's gonna smell like a pine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, does anybody know what this is?
Yeah.
Usnea. Usnea. Now, you know how to tell if it's usnea, right? This is a little bit drier, so let me see if it'll do it. How you can tell it's usnea and not Spanish moss is you take one of these strands and you just pull it apart, and it's stretchy, and there's a little white core inside of it. This is dry. If this were moist, it would pull much further. But there's a little white core in there, and that's how you tell. Very, very good antibiotic right here. You can take and chop this up really fine. This is very dry, and it's a styptic, so that means it's going to stop blood, stop bleeding. It's antiviral, antifungal, anti-candida, very good antimicrobial.
What type of, it grows on a tree?
It grows on dead wood.
Dead.
It's dead wood. So if there's a branch that's died, it might be a healthy tree, but a branch might have broken and died, and you'll find a little bit. I found this in Jackson Park. I'm not going to tell you where. It was all over in Jackson Park, because that's where I go and gather it. But I never get it off the ground because over there it's so plentiful. So you may know what you can do with English ivy. This can be an irritant. If you're allergic to poison ivy, be very careful when you're pulling out English ivy, because a lot of people, this is in the Rhus family, R-H-U-S, same family as poison ivy. So a lot of people are allergic to this, but you can make soap from it. Grind up the leaves and then simmer it, and then you'll have a liquid that has a lot of saponins in it. Saponins is what makes the bubbles. So. And the last one, I saved this for last. Or actually we have this. Everybody know what this one is? Mullein. What do you do with mullein? You can smoke it, but actually it's better to smudge it. Smoking it, if you roll up a leaf like this and light it, it would be better, instead of chopping this up and putting it in a wrapper or in a pipe, to actually light this, lay it in a bowl, and put a towel over your head and smudge it into your lungs. Breathe it in. It's going to make you cough, but it's an expectorant. And what about the root? Very good for muscle pain. So you can make an oil, and I would put heat with it. So gather up your mullein, first year preferably. And anytime you're smoking mullein or using it for a tea or an expectorant, you want to strain it twice through a coffee filter, and you don't want to get it if it's got a stem. There is an ingredient, a constituent that comes on as it goes to produce the stem, as it bolts, that can cause too vivid dreams. So when you have large leaves or second year, this is a biennial, so if you have second year leaves, you may cause too vivid dreams in children, someone suffering PTSD, just in general. I'm very prone to vivid dreams, and I mean, it'll be somebody standing right there in front of me and I can reach out and touch them in my sleep and feel them. So just be very careful of that when you have someone that's prone to too vivid dreams. There are certain ways to process or work with a plant, and that happens to be one of them. All right, so does anybody know what this is? This messy thing? Let me give you a hint.
Oh, it's turmeric.
It's what? Bloodroot. Bloodroot. Yeah, bloodroot just blossomed. Now some of these are still, this is why I dug up the whole thing. I'm gonna just go put this back in the ground. But the flower, these are just coming on. This can propagate very easily. I would put this back in the ground. I would use this for medicine and put this back in the ground to keep it going. Always propagate, always, always. And you never want to take more than a very small amount, because somebody may come along behind you and take more, and then that's how you decimate things. So bloodroot, very red. When you use this, you can put this in toothpaste. As a matter of fact, if you remember, I believe it was not Pearl Drops, there was another close-up toothpaste, had bloodroot in it, when it's no longer on the market. You can use this for to take off warts, to take off cancers, but you have to know what you're doing. I told you about this one because I found this beautiful little patch. But please, before you use it on a skin cancer, make sure you know how to do it, because it can scar, and it can cause some blistering on good skin. So you have to know exactly how to do it. So that's a little snapshot into my world. Does anybody have questions? I'll be glad to answer for you. Yes, sir.
Where would you find bloodroot?
Bloodroot grows in watersheds. Kind of grows dappled or deep shade. Doesn't really like full hot sun. And you'll find it just like this now, or one or two. But always, like I was saying earlier, put that growth node back. You can just pull this off. And I just picked this up where I know it's growing very abundantly, and I'm just going to plant it on my new farm. So I'm just going to leave it like it is. I'm not going to harvest any of that. I'm going to even put this one back. So it's getting endangered. So I caution people, because you have to know what you're doing when you're using this. So please feel free to ask me, and I'll be glad to guide you in it. I use it quite regularly in a lung protocol, as well as for skin. It'll take off a wart. I know it'll take off a wart. It'll take off skin cancers. I had a spot coming up here, and I was using it on it, but you have to really be careful with it. So, any other questions?
How do you know the difference between, like, the Queen Anne's toxic ones that lookalikes and the onion lookalikes that grow in the ground?
Are you talking about poison hemlock? Not the, okay. Poison hemlock is difficult for somebody that doesn't know what it looks like. So make sure poison hemlock has multiple stems, whereas Queen Anne's usually just has one stem, and Queen Anne always has a red center where the queen pricked her finger when she was making the lace. That's your doctrine of signatures, as well as the the flower has a skirt under it. So there's a little kind of a, I'm trying to think what it's called, but under the flower it looks like a little green skirt, and poison hemlock will not have that. Neither will poison hemlock or water hemlock. They're two different plants. So, any other questions?
You said you had classes or something?
I do. I have a class on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock that is on every week. It's a Zoom class. It's on my Patreon, and that's patreon.com/simplehomesteadliving. And we talk about a plant a week or a condition or other issue. Lately we've been talking about foragings because it's spring. Everybody wants to get out and find plants. And it's at 7 o'clock Eastern. I have people in the Central Time Zone as well that take it. And it's a small class, 20 people. We talk about a lot. We pray. We help where we can.
Can you say that? It's Patreon?
Patreon.com/simplehomesteadliving. And I'm the herbal granny. Sometimes you can even look up the herbal granny mentor, because I think every budding herbalist needs a granny. We learn all this stuff from a book now, or videos, or Pinterest. Heaven forbid we learn it on Pinterest, because you don't get any following. You don't know if you're doing it right. You don't have anybody to guide you, and that's what grannies do. Grannies would take on a student and help them. So help them learn and pass on the traditions, and I hope to do that. I have a few students now that are very good herbalists, and I'm so proud of them. I'm just like I'm like a mother hen, gathering my little chicks.
I'm signing up.
What did you say you used the mullein root for?
Mullein root is good for pain. I would put it with Solomon seal root. Very good salve.
Okay.
Yeah, just chop it up. You can see it's small. This one did break, but usually it'll only be 3 or 4 inches at the most. But I would just wash these, break it off from there, chop it up, grind it up, put it in with a good olive oil, with castor oil, really brings it out. Castor oil is my favorite. Shea butter will help as well. Something that's going to seep into the skin. And I would put this with Solomon seal and poke root. It's very good.
Solomon seal root as well?
Solomon seal root. And you'll know Solomon seal because it looks like the root actually is jointed, and where it's at a joint there'll be a seal, which is the Solomon seal, like a signet ring, in wax. It's got that, looks like a signet ring, and those are the seals. So Solomon seal is wonderful. That's its doctrine of signatures, that it would work with joint pain. Same with mullein root and poke root. So, devil's walking stick too. Oh, I had devil's walking stick on the back of my truck. I didn't think to get it. So, all right. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much. I hope I answered questions for you.
Thank you.